Metaphysica, copyright 2004 by Ian Oxer. When Aleister Crowley became Frater, OYMH, and had to write his thesis for the grade of Adeptus Exemptus, he had already collected his ideas when Levy's Clef des Grands Mysteries fell into his hands. It was remarkable that he, having admired Levy for many years, and even begun to suspect his identity, had not troubled, although an extravagant buyer of books, to get this particular work. He found, to his astonishment, that almost everything he had intended to say was there written. The result of this was that he abandoned writing his original work and instead translated the masterpiece in question. Aleister Crowley in Magic in Theory and Practice, also known as Book 4, Part 3. Introduction. My work must proceed, as any field of scientific research, by expanding on already existent systems of thought. It does not make sense to reinvent the wheel. When Jarn Strausrup created the C++ programming language, he patterned it on his knowledge of the C programming language, which was in its turn derived from another programming language. In submitting my research on the Kabbalah and ceremonial ritual magic, I will endeavor to comment on the materials written by Aleister Crowley. I have yet to read a more knowledgeable author on magic. Crowley, who expanded upon the teachings of the Golden Dawn, Enochian, the Ordo Templi Orientis, Freemasonry, Elias Levy, Taoism, Yoga, Nihilism, Monism, Dualism, and many others, incorporating them into his own system, provided an elegant solution to many seemingly insoluble universal riddles, addressing such topics as the riddle of evil, free will, predestination, as well as others that have eluded both philosophers, scientists, and theologians throughout the ages. His works, although exceedingly valuable, have remained, for the most part, inaccessible to the average reader. The problem is that it is impossible to understand Crowley without having crossed the abyss. It is impossible to understand the full implications of magic without having transcended duality, thought, the self, or the ego. One may understand the lower aspects, how thought creates on the astral plane, while failing to grasp the deeper implications. The magician dreams the universe into existence, etc. The question of how to bring magic into the forefront and contribute to its restoration in the light of modern research presents a number of possibilities. Many magicians are stuck in their egos, and many mystics have no interest in developing powers or cities. It takes a mystic who has realized unity in the midst of duality to set the work aright. Likewise, the mystic is only too likely to dodge the work of the lower grades, upon which the higher grades rest, producing an imbalance in some aspect of his life. In contemplating the materials, the value of my training in skepticism, philosophy, and mystical experience all bear evidence to the difficulties that arise in communicating such information. It is as Crowley writes in his book Moonchild: the clever man, so-called, the man of talent, shuts out his genius by setting up his conscious will as a positive entity. The true man of genius deliberately subordinates himself, reduces himself to a negative, and allows his genius to play through him as it will. We all know how stupid we are when we try to do things. Seek to make any other muscle work as consistently as your heart does without your silly interference. You cannot keep it up for 48 hours. I forget what the record is, but it's not much over 24. All this, which is truth ascertained, and certain lies at the base of Taoist doctrine of non-action. Yield yourself utterly to the will of heaven, and you become the omnipotent instrument of that will. Most systems of mysticism have a similar doctrine, but that is true in action is only properly expressed by the Chinese. Nothing that any man can do will improve that genius, but that genius needs his mind, and he can broaden that mind, fertilize it with knowledge of all kinds, improve its powers of expression, supply the genius in short with an orchestra instead of a tin whistle. All our little great men, our one-poem poets, our one-picture painters, have merely failed to perfect themselves as instruments. Now, the purpose of this work is, one, to simplify, to make Crowley's teachings more accessible. How accessible? After all, we don't expect everyone to have the capacity or desire to be a programmer, for instance, less so a magician. However, magic, like mathematics, lends itself to all fields of research. For it is the science of mind, the mechanics of thought, by which means all other fields of research are undertaken. To put it simply, we do everything using our minds, and a trained mind is one that is more effective in every aspect of life. It is for this reason that Crowley tried to show that magic was essential to all. Yet we cannot expect the common man to observe ritual practice as consistently as physical hygiene. Crowley's teachings will never influence the average man directly, for he has no interest beyond the mundane. The magician understands the power of ideas and how they influence the masses, just as the politician or the economist perceive the principles, though he will not label his method magic and apply them to their advantage. Only the adept may link the mundane with the existential. The curriculum of the Golden Dawn, with its requirements of a complete lodge and officers, has made the work particularly difficult for the solitary practitioner. It is advised that the student begin his study by reading the following books in the order listed. And there are different orders that you can undertake this reading, and this is not necessarily set in stone, but this is roughly the list of books that I recommend that you read. It would be particularly helpful if the student studied yoga, Zen, or Taoist systems. See my complete bibliography in conjunction with his magical regimen, and had some experience with samadhi or gnosis, along with a grounding in philosophy, teachers such as Socrates, Descartes, and Nietzsche. Now here's the list. Number 1, Modern Magic, Donald Michael Craig. 2 is The Chicken Kabbalah, Lone Milo Duquette. Number 3, The Golden Dawn, Israel Regardie. 4, The Mystical Kabbalah, Dean Fortune. 5, The Eye in the Triangle, Israel Regardie. 6, The Magic of Thelema, Lone Milo Duquette. 7, Book 4, Parts 1 and 2, Aleister Crowley. 8, Magic Without Tears, Aleister Crowley. And 9, The Law is for All, Aleister Crowley. Now, the second reason for this book is to demonstrate the Aeon of Horus and the following Aeon of Tmist. The Aeon Horus was initiated in 1904 in sync with the end of agricultural economy. Remember, agriculture is associated with the planting of the seed, which gives its life. The Aeon of Osiris and the formula of the dying god. See my paper, The Formula of the Sun, and the onset of the Industrial Revolution. The eons of Horus and Tmist imply the achievement of physical immortality. Note that I am aware that Aleister Crowley considered physical immortality to be undesirable, partly because he felt the death of the physical body was necessary in order for an individual to transcend one's ego. I will address this topic along with other issues in greater detail in the future. Here's something that Crowley said. For this sacrament is the tree of life itself, and whoso partaketh of the fruit thereof shall never die, unless he so will. Who would not rather work through incarnation a real renewal of body and brain, than content himself with a stagnant immortality upon this mote in the sunlight of the universe, which we call Earth. Here's another quote from Crowley. The use of the elixir of life is only justifiable in peculiar circumstances. To go counter to the course of natural change is to approximate perilously to the error of the Black Brothers. Now, as I demonstrated in my earlier paper, the 5 steps and 3 points to enlightenment and physical immortality doesn't run contrary to the course of natural change, as Crowley puts it. Individual cells die to be replenished or resurrected by new ones. There is no need for the body to die. One can transcend the ego by stopping thought. There is no need for the body to die to experience worlds beyond the body normally experienced at death through the practice of astral projection. Physical immortality does not indicate that you will be stuck on Earth. At this level, one is free to come and go as one wills, because one has a corresponding body on each of the levels as a vehicle for one's consciousness or self. In his book, Mantak Chia writes, and this book is called Awakening Healing Light of the Tao, and this is the sealing of the 5 senses, union of kun and kan, reunion of heaven and man. At this death, or at this level, death is transcended entirely. One can simply transform the physical body into the immortal body and leave this world or return to it at will. This is the state of complete physical immortality. It takes from 80 to a few hundred years to complete these practices and transform all the material elements of our body into immaterial. The final goal of ascending to heaven in broad daylight is reached. There are records in Chinese history of many Taoists, thousands of Taoist immortals who reached the level of daylight ascension in the presence of many witnesses. In the Bible, Elijah and Moses also accomplished this feat. In the final stage of this practice, the adept can unite the immortal spirit body, the energy body, and the physical body, or separate them at will. It is then that the human being knows full and complete freedom as an immortal, where no world is a boundary. Okay, I'm not going to get into whether I believe that Mantak Chia's or other meditation practices are capable of achieving these levels. Paramahansa Yogananda also claimed to have a teacher that was 2,000 years old, Babaji. So far, nobody has proven this from a scientific perspective, and so I'm more inclined to urge that people explore a combination of scientific methodologies along with practicing various meditation techniques. I think we're going to need both in order to get to this level. Okay, and the third purpose of this book is to show how magic and Kabbalah relate to computer programming. How the Hebrew language and other aspects of the Golden Dawn system specifically, that we're going to be looking at, correspond to assembly language, and illustrate how binary relates to symbols like the yin-yang, pillars, paths on the tree, the sexual act, the symbolism of the magician in the circle, or the 1 and the 0. For more information, see the formula of the sun. I've already demonstrated much of this with graphics, and so we're going to be progressing into a higher level of abstraction. So once we've demonstrated how machine language or binary relates to these practices, we're going to be showing how we can take this to a higher level in order to demonstrate how ritual magic corresponds to object-oriented programming. Okay, and that we're going to get more into that in my second book called Apotheosis. And after that, there'll be a third book that will get even deeper, and it will be combining my book on computer programming and all of these ritual practices in much, much greater detail. And so it should be worth everybody's time. I've been looking around on the internet and listening to various programs for many years, and I haven't seen anybody do it yet. Certainly not to the degree that I have done it myself. I have no doubt that certain individuals possess this knowledge, but as some of you may already know, programmers are very greedy and selfish with their code, as are people from all walks of life, and that's just the nature of ego. And so track along, and this has been the introduction to the first book, Metaphysica. See you guys soon. Bye.